I'm here today to talk principally about the technology element of resourcing and how that adds value to the whole recruitment piece, but in the context of the very important aspects of brand engagement and brand engagement through the talent acquisition process. I have a couple of questions I was going to get you to think about, really. So in Strength Star, there'll be quick fire questions, just immediate responses, please. We haven't got time to do any group work, but if you could just think about what are some of the biggest challenges that you face with brand engagement in your resourcing process?
Consistency of messaging.
Consistency of messaging?
News channels.
Why is that a challenge?
I guess, particularly if you think with digital social media, every piece of content that you put out is going to leave an impression, leave a footprint, and tying that together with a business that is changing very quickly is a challenge for us.
Other people feel that? Suddenly your brand is very, very transparent and it's out there everywhere. And that's a challenge for us as recruiters and resourcers. Any other challenges with the brand engagement piece in resourcing?
I'd say not having very emotive messages. I think as a business we've been guilty of this in the past, where we put jobs out there, we've advertised them, they're not adverts, they're just job descriptions.
Yes. Yeah.
That it's not transparent, we don't put salaries there.
Yeah.
Whereas if you reposition the communication in the advert, you're going to get a better response.
Yes. So if we feel that we're at on the receiving end of, our brand isn't exciting and our brand hasn't got enough encouraging messages, well, who have we got to look to answer that question? We have to look to ourselves first of all. Thank you. If we had more time, I would generate a lot more debate here. What have been some of your best successes with getting your brand message into the resourcing process? What have you done really well that you're proud of? Can be something small.
I think hiring the right people to do that process.
Someone
who's really passionate, who really lives and breathes the brand. You see a complete difference in the candidates that they're selecting versus someone who's maybe not feeling it as much.
Yes, and something that we may want to all reflect on, which is how often have we encountered people in a recruitment process who are trying to bring us into an organisation and they aren't really that well aligned to the big message that's trying to get across to us.
That was very nicely worded.
you mean
aligned.
Politically correct?
Absolutely.
Just on the laptop. Would you mind? Thank you, Amy. Thank you very much. So, brand engagement. Engagement starts in the public domain now. So 30 or so years ago, a gentleman called Jan Carlson wrote a book called Moments of Truth. He worked for Scandinavian Airlines and he came up with this concept that's been spread around the world, which is the moment of truth is at the customer interface. That's when you really get your brand proposition out to your customers. When it comes to resourcing, the moment of truth is out there in the internet before the candidate really even gets to know you as a business. It then continues, if you're trying to attract people to come and work for you, through the variety of touch points that candidate has, for many of which it will be your careers website. They'll come along and want to find out a bit more about you, and it may then continue into an online engagement piece, the online application process, and that's part of where we come in. But of course, the engagement and the brand engagement, it doesn't stop after the online piece, it goes all the way through the resourcing process, and that includes who they're interviewed by, what the experience is of the line manager that they spend time with during that interview process. And underpinning that, the brand really is a strong link between the culture and the values, and I want to talk a little bit about how all of these things can be blended into the online piece of the recruitment process. Why is it important to build that whole branding piece in from start to finish? Well, we all know that the talent shortage continues, and in some sectors it's far worse than others. We've got some people here from hospitality. Anybody? Who's here from hospitality? Just one, two, just two at the back. Retail is pretty similar. There's a massive shortage of talent out there, with many organisations now being venture capital funded, looking for fast growth, looking to acquire people quickly. It's putting a lot of strain on the talent pool, particularly in sectors like hospitality. Candidates are empowered these days. So I read a statistic yesterday that 50% of candidates are actively looking, but they could be tempted if somebody tapped them on the shoulder. 50% of candidates are open to being tapped on the shoulder. Great for us going out with our direct sourcing strategy, but what about looking over our shoulder? Because those candidates are part of our talent pool as well. So we need to be looking behind us as well as outwards. Why is it important to bring the emotional messages into the process? Well, actually, recruitment is pretty boring for a lot of the time. It's the typical old, read the advert, give us your application form, come and have an interview with us. Matthew Jeffrey, who heads up talent acquisition for a software organisation called Autodesk, his view is that candidates need to have this gut feel and this emotional commitment as they're going into the process if you really want to engage them. And social media is both a friend and a potential enemy if we don't use it wisely. 39% of respondents in a recent study carried out by Taleo said that they plan to use social networks to find and research new jobs, and social networks are sometimes quite often out of our control and therefore need managing. Hiring against cultural fit. So some really nice strong links between Amy's proposition this morning and some of the things that we bump up against. People will leave a job for usually one of two reasons. They don't like their boss and they don't like the job. Quite often they might have the skills to do the job, but they don't really enjoy it. It's not playing to their strengths really at the end of the day. So a really good reason for needing to get your cultural proposition into the process and understanding what helps people tick. And lastly, the recruitment experience that candidates get and the degree to which that's aligned with what you're telling the outside world you're all about will affect an applicant's perception of your brand and will affect your reputation. If you are in the world of recruitment, you are a brand ambassador. You're a brand manager, whichever way you look at it. We did some research. Before I move on to that. So a couple of quotes for you to think about. This is HR Director of Cafe Nero. In business, a member of staff who doesn't fit our culture is more damaging than a low-skilled employee. We can fill capability gaps, but we can't change attitudes. Metro Bank's one of our clients, and they have a very clear approach to recruitment. They hire against attitude and culture because they can train the skills. And the HR Director of Jaguar, one of his key views is, I want candidates to go away feeling impressed with us as a business and that they have got something out of the process even if they weren't successful. So even if they didn't get the job, he wants them to go away feeling, well, that was a good experience for me and I've got nothing but good things to say about that organisation. We did a bit of research with one of our organisations a few years ago now. So we've all heard of the mystery shopper kind of process. Well, we did a mystery candidate experience with this client of ours, and sent random surveys out to people who'd been through the process, regardless of the outcome, and just asked them a few questions, which was really, how was it for you? What felt good? What didn't feel good? And as a result of your experience, are you more or less likely to shop with us? And get to the next slide. This organisation worked out that the lifetime value of a customer for them, if they were a regular shopper, was about £320,000. And if they shopped with us for half of their lifetime, so let's not be too gung-ho about it, then we're looking at £160,000 of value to us for each of our customers. And if we can convert customers to come to our brand, then that's the value it will add to us. When we looked at some of the results, now they're a volume recruiter, in 1 month, 80 candidates who'd been through the process said that they would be less likely to shop with the brand.
Right.
And when they multiplied that over 160,000, it came to £12.8 million. Some of the detail that came out were things like touch points that they couldn't control, or they could control, but touch points like how the candidate was treated by the hiring manager in the interview. If you've got line managers out there interviewing for you, it's tempting to shy away from the cost of training line managers in how to conduct interviews. Not just how to ask interview questions, but how to conduct interviews. And they can undo all the good work that you've put into the whole brand piece if you're not careful. Tips for success with brand engagement, was particularly with the online piece, is clearly it needs to be in line with your corporate branding, but it's not just about logos and font sizes. It's about language and tone of voice. Recruiting and assessing against your values will give you the people with the right attitude. Online recruitment can feel like a very one-way process. It doesn't have to be. I think gone are the days where people submit a CV and it goes into a black hole. Technology allows you to really keep in touch with candidates every step of the way. It can be made to feel like a very human experience. And technology is helping us, whether that is social media, whether it's mobile. There are lots of ways in which you can engage candidates. And lastly, it needs to be consistent at every stage. This is an example of Pizza Express, actually, who use our technology to help with their online recruitment piece. And really, what this is showing you, that this is there from their corporate website. These two screenshots here. But when a candidate goes into the online application piece, that branding follows all the way through. It's not just a static blank form with just words in the middle. The branding is wrapped around it, so they're really engaged with the look and the feel. Metro Bank is another example. Metro are very interesting because they've got some really strong core values. They want their customers to be fans of Metro Bank. They want to wow their customers. And one of the things that they do, if you can go to the next slide, thank you,
is let you take a dog into their bank, which is really important.
You can take dogs
saying.
into the bank, yes, they're very pet friendly, and Mrs. Hill, who's the chairman's wife, routinely brings her dog into the office, and I think there's somebody there whose job it is to clean up after the dog. So they've put some, this questionnaire is not the whole piece, because recruitment is about gathering snapshots of candidates from multiple perspectives. But they do start to tap into values through their online questionnaire, and they start to use language that signals to candidates what we're all about. So one of their questions is around customer service. This is part of their CV screen, and it says, how much customer interaction do you have, or have you had in your last role in a typical week? And it says, I've got limited involvement, I deal with lots of situations. But the title of this question is, Customer Services, the Magic Words at Metro Bank. So just simple things like how you introduce questions and how you introduce what you're asking people will signal really the energy and what's important to us as a business. Come join the revolution as one of our amazing managers is another title to a question. I'm either going to start to feel really excited about that, or I'm going to feel it's a bit cheesy and it's not really for me. It's part of that engaging self-selection piece. It's in the public domain. If you get time, go and have a look at their process. It's worth having a look at. They also give candidates immediate feedback if they've started to go through an online questionnaire. So it's one of the models that we espouse as an organisation. If you're going to ask candidates to fill out questionnaires, give them some feedback. Candidates really like that. And this feedback grid takes the questions that they've answered and shows the candidate how they match. But they've put their own language on the description of the match. So usually the match would be good fit, okay, and falling short. Metro Bank say amazing. If they fit the criteria, amazing. You're a tick in the box. So it's that energy coming all the way through.
So they say to the people that aren't quite on par.
Actually, I
Be a
can't
cynic
recall.
about this,
But it would be positive. It would be positive.
Yeah.
Well, have a look.
Well done. Have another go.
Close, but no banana. So the two-way engagement piece can begin online. It's about informing and engaging the applicant and giving the candidate a choice about whether they want to proceed. Acknowledgements and updates. Well, we should all be using technology that gives candidates immediate acknowledgement these days, that keeps regularly in touch with candidates. But the wording of your standard communications that you send out to candidates through a system, which are great because they help with efficiency, can still have that human touch. So Zzz's, who are one of our clients, they begin all of their standard comms with ciao. Ciao Kirsty, thanks very much for your application, yada yada yada. It's a little touch about, this is our Italian branding. Audience appropriate in terms of the branding. Consider the demographics. Some demographic groups will be on social media all the time and on their mobiles all the time. Great. Think about other groups that may not have access or may not have a desire to use that medium. What is a preference of the group? And a technology approach. Should you just rely on technology or should you be more hands-on? Because at the end of the day, for all that we've got technology at our disposal, the human touch is the most important touch of all, and used well, technology should free you up so that you can spend the quality time really talking to people, getting them in your sites. Thank you. Social and mobile use is growing. River Island, one of our clients, they make a lot of use of texting. They text their candidates through the ATS, and they can do it individually or in bulk. They can have standard text that gets sent out to people 48 hours before an assessment centre. It's really helped with the numbers that do and don't turn up, and the fact that they know who's coming and who isn't coming, because people will text them if they can't make it, whereas without a text they just don't know. They text people to invite them to attend assessment days, and they have filled recruitment events in 12 minutes once they've published it out on the line, because everyone's on their mobile and they say, yeah, I can come on this day. Fantastic. Barclays, they have an online recruitment help desk, so they have a chat online. Who anyone else does that here? Chat. It's a resource. You need to man it if you're going to do it. So it's not something to be done lightly, but it's a human touch, really, kind of through technology. Read recently that Byron's used some speed dating to meet passive job seekers. So to tap those 50% of people who may be tempted. One of their restaurants, senior directors all sat around tables and then rotated around the room. Who's heard of Glassdoor? Yeah. Who checks Glassdoor? Excellent, because Glassdoor is the TripAdvisor of the commercial world, and that's reputation management. You move on to the next. So Glassdoor, as you probably know, starts to look at metrics that you do have control over. At the same time, you don't necessarily always have control over, but given that it's out there, it's something that needs to be managed and maintained. So your recruitment experience will be rated by people. So how was the interview experience? How easy was it to get an interview? How difficult was the interviewing experience? All of that is rated by people out there who've been through your process. And then generally as an employer, what do we like to work for? So just like TripAdvisor, people who get bad reviews on TripAdvisor, and I read all the reviews. One of the things that impresses me most is when somebody has responded to a poor review. Not defending it, not denying it, but just responding to that. So these are just some examples really of what to look for when it comes to promoting the brand, measuring the brand, making sure that it's at every single touch point, and managing your reputation out there in the marketplace. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Lesley. Really interesting.